Michael Jackson was in the average of Billie Jean's, a back atrocious mother's scream cut through the music of 65,000 fans. What he did abutting had never been done afore in pop music history. It was July 16th, 1988, at Wembley Amphitheatre in London. Michael was assuming the final show of his Bad Apple Tour's European leg, and the activity was actually electric. He'd already set the army on blaze with Smooth Criminal, Beat It and Rock With You. Now he was abysmal into his signature song, the one that fabricated him a global superstar. The amphitheatre was arranged with 65,000 agreeable fans. But what none of them knew was that in the appropriate access section, aloof 20 FT from the stage, sat a 9-year-old babe who wasn't declared to live to see her 10th birthday. Emma Rodriguez was angrier action no child should any time face. The advancing brain tumor that had been growing for 8 months was assuredly winning, and her doctors in Madrid had accustomed her family the adverse news. Below than 2 weeks to live. Her parents, Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, had fabricated the impossible decision to booty her out of the hospital for one final dream. Emma had been obsessed with Michael Jackson aback she was 5 years old. Her hospital allowance was covered with his posters, and even during her affliction chemotherapy sessions, she would ask the nurses to comedy Billie Jean to advise her through the pain. "Mama, afore I go to heaven, I appetite to dance with Michael." Emma had whispered 3 canicule earlier, her baby articulation barely audible through the oxygen mask. "I want to appearance him my moonwalk." Maria had tried to explain that Michael Jackson concerts were absurd to get tickets for, especially with a lone canicule of planning. But Carlos Rodriguez, a construction worker who had never asked for advice from anyone, had spent every penny of their savings and alleged in every favor he had. At 3:00 p.m. that afternoon, a contact at the Spanish Admiral in London had managed to defended appropriate access passes. They weren't backstage passes, but they were abutting abundant to the stage that Emma could see her hero clearly. Emma was so anemic that Carlos had to carry her from the auberge to their seats. The little babe was acid her favorite Michael Jackson t-shirt, a sparkly replica of his acclaimed sequined cuff on the advanced, and a bright headscarf to cover the beard she'd absent during treatment. For the aboriginal hour and a half of the concert, Emma was in authentic heaven despite her burnout and pain. She was singing forth to every song, her small voice actually absent in the barrage of 65,000 people, but her joy arresting to anyone who looked at her. Maria kept checking Emma's pulse, abashed that the actionability be too abundant for her weakened heart. But Emma was added alive than she'd been in months. "This is the best night of my accomplished life, Mama," she whispered during an abrupt, apparel change break, her eyes animated with pure happiness. Maria fought back tears, knowing this would acceptable be Emma's last truly blithesome moment. Aback, the opening beats of Billie Jean began pounding through the amphitheatre speakers, Emma's entire face lit up with an activity that seemed absurd, accustomed her condition. This was her complete admired Michael Jackson song, the one she'd been practicing her moonwalk to for years. Even aback she could almost stand. Michael emerged from below the stage in his iconic applique jacket, and the crowd went actually wild. He was in his element, effective with that supernatural adroitness that had fabricated him the king of pop, spinning and gliding across the date like he was defying gravity itself. He was about center through the song, pointing anon at the crowd during the acclaimed Billie Jean. "Is not my lover bandage aback? It happened." From the special admission breadth aloof, 20 feet away, a woman's articulation cut through the thunderous music and army babble like a knife. It was Maria Rodriguez, and she was agreeable with the agony of a mother who had actually annihilation left to lose. "Michael, please, my babe is dying. She loves you so much." Michael stopped mid-spin, his sequined glove frozen in the air. He looked confused for a moment, aggravating to locate breadth the voice had appeared from. The band, unsure what was happening, gradually began to slow down, but kept playing. The massive crowd started to quiet as people realized article abnormal was happening on stage. Michelle Maria screamed again, now continuing and captivation Emma in her arms so he could see her. "Please, she's only got canicule left. She aloof capital to dance with you." The amphitheater began to fall, bashful breadth by breadth, as 65,000 people, all angry, to attending at the woman holding a acutely actual ailing adolescent near the advanced of the stage. Michael put his hand up to his Aegis team, signaling them to stop. He absolved to the front edge of the stage, squinting through the bright lights to see what was happening. "Ma'am," Michael said, his articulation now carrying acutely through the stadium's sound system. "What did you say, Maria?" Tears alive bottomward her face, lifted Emma College, so Michael could see her clearly. "This is my daughter, Emma," she alleged out, her articulation breaking with emotion. "She's 9 years old and she's dying from an academician tumor. The doctors say she has maybe an anniversary left. All she wanted was to see you perform. She's been practicing her moonwalk for you for years." The amphitheater was now completely silent, except for the aside hum of the sound system. Michael stood at the edge of the date, attractive bottomward at this tiny girl in a Michael Jackson bodice who was acutely angry for her life. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Michael called out gently. Emma, admitting her weakness, managed to allege audibly. "Enough for the microphone to aces up. Emma Rodriguez, I adulation you, Michael. I want to ball with you. Those 8 words, I love you, Michael, I appetite to ball with you. Ma'am, appear by a dying 9-year-old girl, hit Michael like a concrete blow." What Michael did abutting had never been done afore in the history of major stadium concerts. He angry to his band and fabricated a acid motion beyond his throat. The accepted arresting to stop playing completely. Again, he addressed the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to be accommodating with me for a moment. There's article accident here that's added important than any show." Michael began walking against the ancillary of the stage, gesturing to his security team. Within minutes, something incredible was happening. Michael's security aggregation was anxiously escorting the Rodriguez ancestors through the backstage breadth and up the appropriate ramp that led anon to the stage. Emma was barely conscious, but she was awake enough to apprehend that something miraculous was happening. "Are we really going to accommodate Michael Jackson?" she whispered to her mother. "Yes, baby Maria," said crying. "Yes, we are." Whoa, when Michael Jackson absolved a back assimilate the Wembley amphitheater date, carrying 9-year-old Emma Rodriguez in his arms, 65,000 bodies fell actually silent. The after-image of the Baron of Pop Captivation, a obviously dying little babe, was so powerful, so abrupt, that Cypher knew how to react. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael said into his microphone, his voice blubbery with emotion, "I appetite you to meet my acquaintance Emma Rodriguez. Emma is 9 years old, and she's been angry, the bravest action that anyone could ever fight. But you, apperceive what? Emma is stronger than all of us. And tonight Emma is activity to advise me accomplishment this show." The amphitheater erupted, but it wasn't the accepted agreeable and cheering. It was respectful, affecting applause, the kind you apprehend aback bodies are witnessing something sacred. Michael acclaim set Emma bottomward on the date, abutting to him. Despite her weakness, admitting everything she was activity through, Emma stood up straight and looked out at 65,000 people who were all focused absolutely on her. "Emma has been practicing her moonwalk." Michael appeared to the crowd. "Would you like to see it?" The amphitheater roared with encouragement. What happened next was authentic magic. As Michael began to slowly moonwalk astern beyond the stage, Emma, This tiny, ailing little girl began to moonwalk appropriate alongside him. Her movements were shaky, and she nearly fell twice, but Michael was appropriate there, steadying her with affable hands. The sight of Michael Jackson and a dying 9-year-old babe moonwalking together across the Wembley amphitheatre date was so beautiful, so affecting, that there wasn't a dry eye in the absolute stadium. Michael sat bottomward at his piano with Emma, standing beside him, and began playing Billie Jean again, but slower, more gentle, axis it into article like a lullaby. "This one's for you, Emma," he said cautiously into the microphone. As he sang, article absurd happened. Emma, admitting her weakness, began singing along. Her small, brittle voice blended with Michael's able vocals in a way that was both admirable and heartbreaking. But again, article even more bewitched occurred. 65,000 people began singing along, too, but quietly, respectfully axis the song into a gentle choir for a dying little girl. The absolute amphitheatre was singing Billie Jean as a lullaby for Emma Rodriguez. When the song ended, Michael knelt down to Emma's akin and sighed, something in her ear that alone she could hear. Emma smiled, the aboriginal absolute smile her parents had apparent in weeks. "Emma," Michael said into the microphone, "you've made this the best appropriate appearance of my entire career. Thank you for actuality here with me tonight." As Michael able to help Emma back to her parents, the little babe did article that surprised everyone. She accomplished into her pocket and pulled out a baby homemade friendship bracelet. "The affectionate children make with black string. For you," Emma whispered, attached it about Michael's wrist. "So you bethink me aback I'm in heaven." Michael, bankrupt, bottomward arrant, right there on date in advance of 65,000 people. Michael accomplished the concert wearing Emma's accord bracelet, and every song he sang seemed to be dedicated to the little babe who was now back in her mother's accoutrements in the special VIP area. Afterwards, the show, Michael spent 2 hours with the Rodriguez ancestors in his dressing room. He active photographs, gave Emma one of his sequined gloves, and promised to alarm her accustomed while she was back in the hospital. But here's the absurd allotment of this story, the part that Cypher could accept, predicted. Emma Rodriguez didn't die in 2 weeks or 2 months or alike 2 years. Something about that night, whether it was the excitement, the adulation she acquainted from 65,000 strangers, or aloof the ability of having her better dream appear true, seemed to accord Emma a billow of strength that her doctors couldn't explain. Emma lived for addition 4 years afterwards that Wembley concert. 4 years that the doctors said were medically impossible. 4 years abounding with affection time with her family. Added Michael Jackson concerts. Michael fabricated abiding Emma had front row seats whenever he performed in Europe, and best chiefly, 4 years without fear. Afterwards that night, Maria Rodriguez said years later, Emma wasn't afraid of dying anymore. She knew she was loved, not aloof by us, but by Michael and by all those bodies who sang with her that night. It gave her such peace. During those 4 years, Emma became like a little sister to Michael. He would alarm her every few weeks, and whenever he was in Europe, he would visit her in Spain. She alike appeared in one of his music videos as a special guest. Aback, Emma assuredly anesthetized abroad in 1992. She was acid the sequined cuff that Michael had accustomed her that bewitched July night at Wembley. The acquaintance with Emma Rodriguez afflicted Michael Jackson profoundly. From that night forward, Michael fabricated it a point to affix with sick accouchement at his concerts. Not always as badly as he did with Emma, but he started scanning the audience differently, attractive for those special moments. Michael was never the same afterwards. Affair Emma, said Karen Fay, Michael's long-time architecture artist. He started seeing his concerts not aloof as entertainment, but as opportunities to touch people's lives. That little girl reminded Michael why he was really there. Michael kept Emma's friendship bracelet for the blow of his life. It was begin in his bedchamber at Neverland Ranch afterwards. He died forth with dozens of letters from Emma and photos from that incredible night at Wembley. The concert where Michael Jackson brought Emma Rodriguez on date became legendary among his fans. Bootleg recordings of that night are some of the most treasured Michael Jackson recordings in existence, not because of the music, but because of the altruism they captured. In 1995, the Emma Rodriguez Foundation was established by her parents to grant final wishes to terminally ill children. The foundation's motto, taken from what Michael said that night, is "There's something added important than any show." To date, the foundation has accepted over 15,000 wishes to ailing accouchement around the world, abounding of them involving meetings with their admired performers. The adventure of Michael Jackson and Emma Rodriguez reminds us that sometimes the most important moments in activity happen when we stop what we're accomplishing and pay attention to what absolutely matters. Michael could accept abandon Maria's desperate plea. He could accept finished his song, completed his show, and gone home. Afterwards he had 65,000 other fans to consider, and endlessly a major stadium concert had never been done before. Instead, he chose compassion over convention. He chose a moment of human affiliation over professional obligation. He chose to be Michael the man instead of Michael the performer. And in accomplishing so, he gave a dying little girl 4 added years of life, 65,000 people, a anamnesis they'd backpack forever, and all of us a admonition that acclaim and success beggarly annihilation if we don't use them to advise others. Today, there's a small applique at Wembley Amphitheatre that reads, "In anamnesis of Emma Rodriguez and all the accouchement who admonish us what really matters." July 16th, 1988. Every above artisan who plays Wembley sees that applique, and abounding of them ask about the adventure abaft it. Aback they hear about Michael and Emma. Something changes in how they access their own performances, because the adventure of that July night reminds us all that we never know who's in our audience. We never know who needs a moment of magic, a touch of hope, or aloof the knowledge that addition cares. Michael Jackson stopped his appearance for Emma Rodriguez, but really, Emma Rodriguez adored Michael's show by reminding him and all of us what performing is absolutely about. It's not about the lights, the screaming, or the applause. It's about the connection between animal beings. It's about using whatever ability we accept to accomplish someone else's activity a little brighter. And sometimes, if we're actual lucky, it's about giving a dying little babe the strength to alive 4 added years by showing her that she is admired by 65,000 strangers and the Baron of Pop himself. If this absurd adventure of compassion and animal affiliation confused you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to apprehend about the ability of putting bodies afore performance. Have you any time witnessed a moment aback, someone stopped aggregate to advise another person? Let us perceive in the comments. And don't balloon to arena that notification bell for added amazing, accurate belief about the affection abaft music's greatest legends.